hopefully be an Well, we'll leave that there because we are now nearly underway between Brentford and Everton, and it is now just underway. Quite the contrast in London, because if you've seen the headlines this afternoon, Burnley versus Tottenham is off due to snow, but yet in Brentford, what a glorious afternoon it looks between the two teams playing on what looks like a carpet of a pitch. So I'm sure the Spurs players will be on the bus home envying what they can currently see, as it is Brentford in their home jersey and their home strip, Everton likewise the red and white against the blue, so no need for a contrast and hopefully a very entertaining game, because these two teams need a victory. It's the same sort of form really. In the last 5 matches it's 4 defeats, 1 draw. Confidence is low. Injuries have played their part at the front end for Everton. It's been an issue without Calvert-Lewin. They've got Richarlison suspended, and then at the back end for Brentford, the loss of David Raya, the goalkeeper, is certainly well felt. Brentford versus Everton. Myself, Tom Hill, and Paul Szczerbakowicz covering all the game for you, and it's just got that feel of a not desperation when it's early, but it's such an important game this going into the Christmas period, Paul. A couple of weeks time, if they can get a win one of these two, it'll surely lift them.
Absolutely, it's one of those games where we'd be hoping that potentially we should be seeing quite an open game, because both sides should be looking at their opposition today and thinking that this is a game that we can win. Brentford, signs of improvement against Newcastle, but still very open at the back. Everton just lacking that bit of confidence all over the pitch really. Their attack certainly hasn't been as prolific as Rafa Benitez would have liked, and defensively they're lacking a little bit of organisation as well.
Yeah, Brentford coming forward with Mbuemo. He goes out towards the right hand side for Sergi Canos, and Canos is waiting for an overlapping run, delays it and crosses it anyway, so the Brentford attack comes to nothing. The two teams, there is Fernandez will break off, in fact, because Brentford have started another attack as about to get involved as Henry lays the ball back off to the far post, and Mbuemo was lurking. Ricardine gets it away, so Brentford go with Fernandez, Pinnock, Janssen, Good, Henry, Norgard, Oneyka, Yanyel, Canos, Toney and Mbuemo. As for Everton, it is Pickford, Coleman, Godfrey, Keane, Dean, Allen, Iwobi, Decore, Gordon, Townsend and Rondon. Early signs are that both teams are going to try and get the ball down and play. Here is Gordon, the Everton youngster, getting down the channel, trying to drive to the Brentford defence. Plays it back into Iwobi, who goes to Townsend. Good covering work in the midfield by Brentford. Eventually running into trouble. I think it was Norgard getting the foot in. And Mbuemo, quick feet from the Bees, and they get out of trouble. But it was only a couple of minutes in, Paul. I'm sure it's going to dip as Ivan Toney comes forward, but they're charging forward with Mbuemo. Perhaps the wrong pass that from Toney. Could have gone further wide, but well, it's a frantic pace, but a good one.
It is a good start, yeah. That last move there, Toney should have looked for the pass out wide to Rico Henry. But this is where both teams have to be careful, because they have been a little bit open in defence in the last few games. So an early goal just gives that team that does score something to hold on to. So it's very important here for both Brentford and Everton not to give their opponents too many easy opportunities.
Yeah, especially at the doors as well. It's a weird day this today, because we should have had 4 2 o'clock kickoffs, but only the 4 Premier League games yesterday. Townsend comes in, ball across the face of goal, but because of that, of course, results down the wrong end of the table for, I mean, I say Brentford had a great start to the season. Everton were looking over their shoulder. I watched Everton versus Leeds in the flesh, and Everton were really good that day. They looked organised, they looked well thought out, but I think like Leeds, their system is built around a lot of their strike play, which is Calvert-Lewin, who's been injured. Brentford, I think we're always going to find a tough patch of form, Paul. And that's a terrible, terrible pass from Everton. It was attempted outside of the boot pass from Decore. He's kicked it out for a throw. But I guess that's why when Brentford had more of a string of results, you look back at games like the Chelsea defeat when they were by far the better team and hung on. I guess you just got to try and take the positives for the fact that they picked up those points early. A bit like Brighton. Brighton's form has dipped, but because they got the wins, they're still late. So
they are, yeah. I mean, and as I say, Brighton yesterday would have been a little bit frustrated because they had a lot of possession, but didn't create too many chances against Leeds. Brentford, I mean, their form was starting to dip, and then the real catalyst, I think, was losing David Raya, who's been such an important player for Brentford. The goalkeeper, he's also important in terms of his distribution. Now he gets the ball out quickly, and his replacement, Alvaro Fernandez, has struggled since then. But Brentford have pushed forward in the meantime. They've got themselves a throw, and Goods winding up for a long throw here.
Yeah, and it's good to see everyone packed into the ground. It's that time of year where the fixtures will come thick and fast. Midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for the Premier League. Brentford take the throw in short towards the far post. Pickford's come flying off his line. He deals with the situation, but only to punch it for a corner. Ricardine is thumped to the deck. Pickford taking no prisoners. I don't think it's... Well, some will say it is catchable, and I think he probably did have the time, but it's always the case nowadays in the modern game to be a bit more robust and punch clear. Pickford keeping the instructions pretty intense for his team. Most corner goals conceded. Everton second behind Crystal Palace. Brentford don't put the ball in straight away. Sergio Canos lays it off the edge of the area, looping ball into the far post, too close to Pickford. And, pretty poor in all truth. A keeper's dream, that cross.
It is, and it does frustrate me that so many teams do overcomplicate corner kicks. Just whip it into the 6-yard box, especially someone like Pickford, who can be a little bit erratic sometimes, sort of caught in two minds whether he's going to punch or catch it. Put him under that pressure. Letting him just catch an easy ball like that is far too easy. Yeah,
Pickford has to run across the goal line towards the corner flag and clears down the line. It's a beautiful couple of flick-ons from Everton. Salomon Rondon, the latest, and now Iwobi's going to try and help him out. A great challenge from Brentford, though. I think it's Good that's got across at right centre-half, a player I haven't seen too much of, but he's been pretty busy early doors with a couple of throws. Has to get down that flank. He's had to chase Gordon a couple of times as well, as Luca Dean prepares to take the throw. We'll keep you up to date with the other scores. Leicester 0, Watford 0, Man City 0, West Ham 0. And this game has certainly started on the front foot. Both teams desperate for points, and jury's out a little bit on Rafa Benitez. Of course, it wasn't a popular appointment anyway. And then when you hit this run, I'm not really sure what to think of it, to be honest.
Well, no, it's a difficult situation at Everton because under the current ownership, there seemed to be a move towards bigger spending, the big plans for the new stadium and everything else, and it just seems as though they've just gone to a little bit more of a budget in terms of their squad, which does mean that Rafa Benitez is perhaps restricted a little bit. But yes, certainly the drop-off in form will be a worry to Everton fans because it's been going on for a good few games now.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to get any better until the Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison combination is restored. But that combination up front would work for most Premier League teams. It'd be more than capable to compete for a European spot. So without them both, you are pretty fighting against the tide. As here is Everton on the right-hand side with Iwobi. Back into Decore. Brentford 0, Everton 0. Nearly 7 minutes gone. Townsend spins and turns, tries to whip the ball into the box. Not really sure what he was trying to achieve. He was asking so much of himself, Townsend. He's a player that does have flashes of form, and when he is at his best, he's really unplayable, but that isn't consistent enough. It's why he's not made it on the international stage. He lays it back into Godfrey. Allen's trying to direct the midfield.
It's been a problem for Everton in terms of getting goals. Certainly in their last 5 games, they've got 3 goals scored in their last 5 games, and just that one draw, that was the 0-0 at home to Spurs. 4 defeats aside from that, so it has really been a very difficult sort of end of October and into November for Rafa Benitez's side. But just in the last couple of minutes, they're seeing a little bit more of the ball now. Yeah,
Townsend to Iwobi, who slows it down and goes back to Decore. Didn't want to turn around quickly enough. Decore's second pass across the park is nearly as bad as the first. Gives it away. Luca Dean was just on the ball, and Decore was screaming at him to give him it back. But even a few more of his teammates are a little bit reluctant until he's got his bearings. As Gordon's on the left-hand side, he waits for the overlapping runner, he ignores it and uses it as a decoy to cut inside, flicks it into Decore, who struggles to bring it under control. Good challenge in the middle of the park, a couple of players flying in. It's a overzealous challenge from Gordon, who jumps up in the air and hits Janelt with the stray boots. Janelt stood his ground originally from the challenge, and always the case of the youngster. They don't have a switch, really. It's just full-blooded. And
no, he wants to get on the ball, doesn't he? It was his run that was stopped. The ball looped up in the air by Canos, so he charged into Janelt to try and win the ball back. Referee Darren England giving the free kick, but Brentford just stuck inside their own half in the last few minutes. Tried to play a couple of long balls out towards Mbuemo and Toney, and they've just been boxed in by Everton the last few minutes.
Yeah, I think it's important. I was really happy for Toney last week to get that goal against Newcastle. He's starting to stutter a little bit, and Mbuemo seems to be one of the most unluckiest players in the league at the minute. He's hit the post, I think it's 7 times.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple of teams that have hit the post less times than he has this season, but here comes Townsend.
Yeah, Townsend into the box, looking for Rondon over his head. Gordon's lurking, but Canos gets a header to it. 9 minutes gone, still goalless. Poor ball from Gordon, puts Dean under pressure, but he gets it back. Now Gordon's going to go towards the byline, goes down the right-hand side, and it is going to be a corner. Good challenge in the end from Brentford in the shape of Oneyka. Concedes the set piece. Brentford's first corner, they went short. What will Everton do with this one? It's still goalless around the Premier League.
Well, if I had done my homework on Alvaro Fernandez, I'll be whipping this one in straight into the 6-yard box and make this Brentford goalkeeper make a decision, because he's been struggling with that.
Well, I asked you after the first game that David Raya didn't play if he was any good, and I got quite a firm no. So he hasn't improved over the last few weeks, and it's such a key position, isn't it? Especially for a team like Brentford, as Mbuemo gets the ball down and kicks it away from his marker. He's going for a second one. He's giving it too close to Pickford, but it's one of those routines that I just want it to work out, such as the flamboyance of it from Mbeumo. Great turn of pace. Toney concedes a throw by the looks of things, and Mbeumo, the first touch was perfect, beautifully weighted. I think the second one was a case of, did you need to do it? But again, we get a look at a replay, we get to see the entire pitch. He doesn't. But yeah, I just wanted him to get there. I think he deserved it.
Yeah, well, I think that the problem he's got is that, of course, he's up against Jordan Pickford, who's one of the quickest goalkeepers off his line anyway. Yeah. So it's a case of giving yourself enough space and enough time to get on the end of it, but don't get it too close to the goalkeeper, because Pickford doesn't need to be asked twice to come off his line.
No, he certainly doesn't. As we see the ball in the hands of the right, sort of third man at the right at the back three, which is Good, the right hand side of it. Janssen in the middle, Pinnock at the left. As Everton cleared from the edge of their own box, Rondon was looking inside to Townsend, couldn't get it to him because a player got in the way in the shape of Jan Elton. 11 minutes gone, Brentford 0, Everton 0. Issue with Brentford's keeper, I believe it's till potentially February, March.
It could even be longer than that. I mean, there have been some shots of him doing some training, just catching a ball, but he's still got obviously all that strapping, all that support around his left knee.
Do they go and get a new keeper?
I think they might have to think about it in January, because I think Alvaro Fernandez, he's on loan from Huesca, a second division Spanish team. They didn't even need him on their bench this season, so there was no way that he was going to be brought into Brentford to play 20 games like he's going to have to now. So I do think that the club will certainly have that in mind come January. Whether or not you can get a goalkeeper of the right quality is a different matter.
You got Manchester United. You've got Henderson at the back. You've got Henderson. Of course, he's not playing. Will they let him go? It depends on the new manager coming in. You've got a few keepers at a couple of clubs that just might be to fill the gap as Everton, under pressure, win a throw.
I suppose the difficulty is for other teams in the league is just whether or not they want to they certainly wouldn't let their second choice keeper go, because they obviously need a good replacement themselves. Whether or not there's a third keeper somewhere that
you need a third. You need a club with a third choice, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah, so it could be a difficult one that's for Thomas Frank. But I mean, for Fernandez, you would hope with every game is getting a little bit more confidence. I mean, he did concede 3 against Newcastle last week, but made a couple of good saves as well. So far, not really been tested in this game, though.
Tough as well, because for Brentford's perspective, as we just see the ball played over the top from Canos to Pickford, you're not going to buy a keeper, I wouldn't have thought, considering if you do go down, you've then got the later, unless it's a cheap enough deal, but you'd have thought it'd have to be a loan, wouldn't it? Because Raya's clearly the first choice when fit, so it's an awkward one, unless you go and get a youngster that perhaps could come in and is a backup for Raya going down the future route. But it's a tough time for everybody in the. You're going to see Newcastle panic buy.
Yeah, absolutely. Newcastle are in a really difficult situation now, last in the league. No real effect of the new manager and the new ownership so far, so that's still going to need to be addressed. Norwich City showing signs of improvement under Dean Smith. Burnley are the last team in that relegation zone, and we know what you get from Burnley. There's always going to be a run of games where they just start to get themselves away from relegation trouble. So still plenty of work to be done for teams in the transfer window in January. Of course, before then you've got this manic period in December with game after game as well. Yeah,
midweek, as we say, coming up as Brentford are in possession with Fernandez. They've gone back from Pinnock to their keeper, and their skipper Janssen goes across to Pinnock once more. And there's not a lot of space. It's all a bit stop-start, pardon me, for Brentford, really. Not from their own doing, it's just been good play from Everton. In terms of their marking, their system, they're pretty tight. No real space. Paul mentioned it about 6 minutes in about how the Brentford have struggled to really get out of their half. Nothing's changed since then. Here they come though with Henry. The ball in behind was on, but they didn't play it. He's absolutely fuming as the man in the middle as the Brentford ball is put across the park. It's cleared away. Not quite sure who that is. Paul might be able to tell us the man in the middle. But
so Oneyka, I think
what a run!
Just streams even further forward than Toney, as you said, and he was open. That ball should have gone to him.
What a run! As Good gets a round of applause from not only Janssen but everyone in the ground, because he takes the ball from an Everton player, not for the first time today, but it's a poor clearance from the Beast. Townsend plays it inside. He was trying to be crafty to Rondon. Noyard got there first.
Rondon had a touch of the ball?
He's flicked one header.
Yeah. I was going to say
it's a good header, but
he's been very isolated up there. That's despite the fact that the ball's spending most of its time in the Brentford half. Rondon can't get on the end of it. Here comes Canos.
Yeah, Gordon's lucky because he tried to bring down Canos. Yeah, referee spotted that, and that's a good call from the ref. Gordon went into the back of Canos with a shoulder barge. He might have taken the wind out of his sails because he landed with his arms aloft. He wasn't ready to brace himself. He was still trying to run forward. And, it's a challenge from a youngster that is not needed. He just wants to put himself in the game, show that he's committed. Now a chance for Brentford to send their defenders forward.
Well, we'll see how they use this free kick. The corner they had before was wasted really with the ball just sort of floated into the box, making it quite easy for Pickford. This is quite a long way out, so certainly Everton will try and set up an offside line just to make it that bit more difficult for the Bees to get into the box.
Yeah, currently 3 players for Brentford stood offside for now. Toney is one of them, of course. They will jolt back and get ready. 15 minutes gone. And the Crystal Palace have conceded more goals from these sort of situations. And you do hope Brentford's perspective, as Paul said earlier, they actually get the ball in the box. Don't try something crafty. This is a team that are vulnerable from set pieces, so test their arm. As Canos made an original move that he now stops. He's still to take this ball. He's got his arm aloft, stands over it. Now he swings the ball in. It's not a great delivery, cleared away by Rondon, which is one of his advantages of playing. But I don't think you need Salomon Rondon on the pitch to clear that set piece.
No, it's a cross that's already too low to even get into the penalty area. Rondon stood right at the edge. Made a very easy header there. So it's disappointing distribution here from Brentford early on.
Yeah, it's a good point you make, actually. I think if Rondon doesn't touch it, it might not even bounce before the box. So really poor delivery from the right touchline as we're nearly 16 minutes in, and now the keeper really to be questioned with a proper save. We've seen Pickford make a punch, but nothing of any real note. As here is Decore. Again, he doesn't look fully at the races at the moment. If I was Brentford, I'd be bang on his case, trying to put him under pressure. Into the heart of the Everton defence now, back to Pickford. The sun's in his eyes. It's always a stadium when I've actually watched, the very rare occasion I do get to watch Brentford. It is a stadium I do wonder why the old school cap is not brought back out, as Janelt does put pressure on Decore and nearly forces a mistake. Now Coleman back towards Godfrey, but again, I like the Brentford press. It's a lot more intent than Everton's is. As Godfrey goes down the line, he was looking for Iwobi. Because he's behind him, Pinnock has to head clear, and Brentford with one touch passing take it away from Everton. Onyeca's got to be quick, and he is, and it's now with Janssen, who just side foots it towards Good.
Yeah, just a little bit more controlled now from Brentford. Again, this is all still inside their own half, though. That's the problem. And as soon as the ball goes anywhere near the halfway line, Everton are able to pick it off, and they're in possession now. It's still been a little bit disappointing from Brentford because they've seen enough of the ball to try and test this Everton defence, but haven't been able to do it. Yeah,
Leicester have got a goal against Watford by the looks of things. James Maddison will wait for any VAR check, such as the situation now in the modern game. I read 2 scores out yesterday, which were both corrected. But eventually Liverpool getting the job done. Everton will look to be the second team from that part of the world, as Man City have also apparently scored against West Ham. Tough run for West Ham. Got beat by Wolves, play City now, and they're the team that everyone claims is the next potential for the European spots, and yet Arsenal gained ground on that. That battle for 4th is going to be such a good race. I think the top 3 is done, really. And I heard a co-commentator of ours yesterday describe the Premier League as a league of 20 teams with 4 or 5 mini leagues mixed into it, and I can sort of get that. I think the bottom 6 are going to be the bottom 6, and I think you've got that little middle ground. It's going to take some run for somebody to try and make it all the way up there.
Well, yeah, I would agree. I think that potentially a couple of teams may still get dragged into it. Palace have really tailed off in the last few games that you mentioned there. The most goals conceded from corners and the most goals conceded from free kicks as well for Patrick Vieira's side. Southampton in 14th, just outside that bottom 6, you could say. And I think they could be in trouble. They've had a real budget of a squad this year, so there's still, I think, a few potential changes. But overall, I would say that the way the league is set up now is pretty much how it's going to stay in terms of where the teams are in those little mini leagues. Absolutely.
Yeah, Man City's goal's been chalked off for offside. It was Mahrez that got it. As now ball's played forward to Mbuemo. Henry runs into a brick wall. It is Seamus Coleman and Gareth Southgate in attendance. Now he's got a couple of Everton players that he'll be watching. His keeper for a start. I'm not really sure how many Brentford players will be able to be in the mix, but they're in the mix now for a corner.
I'll tell you what, if he gets his skates on or leaves a few minutes early, he could actually make it to Stamford Bridge for the late game this afternoon as well.
It could very much well be his plan today. Must be a lovely little life, that, to be the England boss, get to watch whichever game you want, it's best seats in the house, then drive back up to Harrogate where you live, and then pick your next set of games in midweek.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying he's not a busy man, of course, but
well, no, it's part of his job. I do often wonder sometimes whether or not it's that essential for a manager to see the player in the flesh, but I suppose he gets to see more than just if he was watching it on TV.
No, from like an analyst perspective, from
he
far
needs
out.
to see where they're positioned, absolutely. But in the meantime, Brentford have won themselves a corner. See if it's a better delivery this time from Sergi Canos.
Yeah, Janelt says it, and Janssen in the box. Paul asked for a better delivery. I'm not sure if it's any better than the first two. He doesn't beat the first man, who's Alan, and if you know anything about Alan, he's one of the smallest players, if not the smallest player on the pitch.
Him and Canos are the two smallest players on the pitch, so or maybe Henry as well. So how on earth he's able to get to that just shows that it was far too flat from Canos, but he gets a second go now.
Yeah, looks across, the sun's in his eyes, half the box drenched in the snow, the sun, half in the shade, underneath the keeper. That's exactly where you want the ball. Paul asked for it earlier. Everton player goes with a high boot, it'll fall into the box. Jan Elk flicks it on here as Jansen goes for goal. He's not putting enough power on it, he could well have been offside. There's a Brentford player still down. I'm not sure Jansen was offside, I think it's Oneyka that's on the ground. The game goes on. Well, if it's a head injury, I don't really understand why the referee hasn't stopped this. Gordon into the box he comes, gets it across to Rondon, who's tried to spin his man turn. Great block. I think it's Mbuemo with a last-ditch challenge. That's incredible work ethic. But now the game stopped for Oneyka. I don't get it.
It's strange that if the referee stopped play once Brentford have won the ball back in their own box, he should have stopped play when the ball was initially cleared. There's clearly a head injury there for the Brentford midfielder. We can see Pickford comes out and punches this one, and as Oneyka tries to get to it, gets a boot in the face from Andros Townsend. So it does make you wonder whether or not VAR wants to have another look at this as well. That corner kick from Canos, though, was perfect. It forces Pickford to punch it straight from underneath his crossbar.
Is that not a penalty?
I think it could be. I think there's potentially a chance for that. I mean, we'll see whether or not it's just going to be the injury that we're pausing for, whether or not VAR wants to check. Haven't seen any displays on the scoreboard.
He looks guilty to Andros Townsend. He knows. Checking possible penalty. I think this is a penalty, Paul. I'm quite disappointed in not only the officiating, the failure to spot that. Pickford's now trying to claim his innocence of his teammate. I do notice how Andros Townsend stayed well away from the referee, and I think body language is perfect in football. If he doesn't think he's done something wrong, he's in the referee's face. The referee is now going across to check the monitor. I think he gives this, and I'll be mesmerised if he doesn't. He's booted him in the face.
He has, and you can't say that Onyeka's diving at Townsend's feet here. He's pretty much stood straight up. He's just crouching down a little bit, but it's a clumsy one from Andros Townsend. And I think when the referee sees the 2 or 3 replays that we've just seen, it's the way that Oneyka... What swings it for me is the fact Oneyka actually heads the ball first. He gets his head to it and then gets caught. So the referee has given a penalty.
I don't think he took more than one look at that. I think he just looked at it once and went, right. Townsend now suggests... he's pulling a funny frown, is Townsend, but he's got nothing to
He is, but
complain.
Andros Townsend's a much more passionate player than that. When there's a decision on the pitch that he disagrees with, he is in the referee's face, he's flailing his arms around. The fact that he's just grimaced a little bit, I think he knows he's guilty.
We've just seen a slightly different replay of it, and in the back plate, he grits his teeth almost, because he knows he's hit him. Anyone that plays contact sport, or anyone that's... you've kicked someone in the face. It's as simple as that. Onyeka's got the tissue pad in his mouth, I'm guessing for blood. I think the referee has also got a bit of a duty of care to apologise, to be fair, because I just think in terms of the game now, it's a head injury. He allowed the play to run to the opposite box without even checking on that. I just think that's such a poor...
I do wonder whether or not in those referees' reports that we don't get to see, the general football public, so to speak, I do wonder if that's going to be noted against Darren England, that perhaps he should have just stopped the game a little bit quicker. Perhaps he should have got some assistance, because the VAR officials would have seen that straight away, so perhaps they could have said to him that the play needs to be stopped. But it's going to be Ivan Toney to try and put Brentford in front. Yes,
so Toney against Pickford, who's trying to come towards the edge of his 6-yard box. So far, Ivan Toney's barely looked at the Everton goalkeeper. Be a good test of his mettle, this. Toney, he got a goal. Allow him to get his confidence. Pickford, he's just getting the instructions. He knows exactly what he's doing, Jordan Pickford. He's got the fluorescent pink boots, the fluorescent pink gloves on. He can't be missed by Ivan Toney in front of him. 12 yards out, it is the job of the Brentford talisman to try and open the scoring. It's the short run-up. It's nothing different from Toney. Big goal in this match if he can open the scoring here. Halfway through the first half. Yet to take it. He's been given the whistle to do so, though. Toney steps up, sends the ball into the far corner. Pickford barely moves. Brentford 1, Everton 0.
Yeah, Pickford, I think, was trying to second-guess what Toney was doing. Toney doesn't take very long run-ups for his penalties, but he does drill them low into the corner. It's a very similar penalty to the one he scored against Swansea in the playoff final. On that occasion, the goalkeeper did try and dive after it. I think Pickford was almost trying to sort of psych Toney out there and hope that he just placed it down the middle, but it wasn't to be, and Brentford lead.
They certainly do, and it's... I mean, I don't like these short run-ups just for the nervous bit of it. It worked perfectly. Cannot complain about the penalty whatsoever. It was crisp, as you say, Paul. It was powerful into that corner. It wasn't right in the corner, but I mean, Pickford's absolutely nowhere near it, which is all that matters. And as they do say, the old cliche, as long as it goes in the back of the net, who really cares? Halfway through this first half, it will now be Paul Szczerbakowicz to take us through to half-time.
Thank you very much, Tom. Yes, and it's Ivan Toney's fourth goal. It's his first goal to the Brentford Community Stadium this season. From the spot, 24 minutes gone, and we'll see what kind of response we're going to get from Everton, because those Everton fans that are in the same corner as where Brentford have just scored at that end of the pitch, they would have been very frustrated. It's been a tough time for Everton. It's not been a particularly good start for Everton in this game either, although they looked a little bit more confident in possession in the first 10 or 15 minutes. The last few minutes before Brentford got their penalty, B's worse in the ascendancy, but Everton responding here as Iwobi finds Digne. Digne's ball into the box, and Rondon gets there first. That's a good save from Alvaro Fernandez. Questions will be asked about where his defenders were to allow Rondon to turn that easily, but Fernandez gets his body in the way, stopping the strike at the near post. Everton still keeping it alive here down the right-hand side with Abdoulaye Doucouré. He goes back towards Ben Godfrey. Doucouré now back towards Townsend. And he whips a ball in. It's a good ball as well. It's a header from Rondon. Doesn't really get the power on it that he wanted. It's just a glancing header. If anything, it just redirects it more towards Alvaro Fernandez. But as good a move as this was from Everton, Rondon's given far too much time in the box.
He is, when the keeper deals with it. I think Janssen will be annoyed at himself for letting him turn him too easily. I mean, it's a good touch from Rondon, in fairness to him. It's more the fact that it's such like a dribbling cross that I think it's the first man that doesn't block it, but Brentford can wake up and get a chance.
They do. It comes Oneyka down the right-hand side. We didn't actually see the start of that move. Independent off-tube studio commentary. We're still getting a replay of that Everton chance. Meanwhile, Brentford got up the other end. Toney wins a header. Oneyka heads it back to Toney. And then it's a lovely bit of link-up play here as Oneyka bursts into space, trying to pick out Mbuemo, maybe just a yard too close there to Pickford. But that's a good response from Brentford, who were very close to conceding at the other end. Now very close to actually doubling their lead as the ball is over on the left-hand side here for Christian Norgard. Plays it inside towards Janelt. Janelt to Toney. Gets away from Godfrey. Thuds it in towards Janelt. Janelt doesn't get the strike away. What was he waiting for? Brilliant covering defending there. I think it was Doucouré breaking into his box, saving the situation for Everton when it looked like it could have been 2-0.
The only thing I can think of is he's trying to, because Pickford, I think you made the point earlier with Mbuemo, because Pickford's so good at coming off his line, he's got it in his head, I think, that I can round him here and it'll just be a simple finish. And Pickford does close the space down, but you've then got to then take it round him and hope no one's followed your run. You get one opportunity to just let that fly, just dig it out, hope for the best.
Dink it. He's a left footer as well. He's on his left foot.
Or not even dink it, just smash it.
Just
anything.
Absolutely.
Anything.
Pickford's not going to get down to that in time, is he? But yeah, that was certainly a good opportunity. And Everton need to wake up here because they responded well after conceding. But since then, Brentford have had two really good chances to increase their lead. And it's a throw now on the right-hand side. Charlie Good, who's been thrown into this Premier League team, really signed from Northampton as cover when Brentford was still in the Championship, but a combination of injuries have meant that Good is pretty much a first-team regular, certainly has been in the last month, and he launches this throw straight towards the edge of the 6-yard box. It's headed on towards goal. Ethan Pinnock with the header. I'm glad that Pinnock headed that one because he takes too many throws for Brentford. Although he's got a very good long throw, Ethan Pinnock, because of his size, it's more useful to have him in the box, I think.
Yeah, it's just physics, isn't it? He's a big boy, he's got a good leap on him, and it's a good header. I mean, fair enough, it's down the throat of Pickford, but he's always falling back, his Pinnock. He does actually quite well to actually get it on target, and quite weirdly that the actual goal of Brentford seems to have given them a lift rather than it's not kicked Everton into life as much as it has Brentford. I know they've had chances, but it's given Brentford that lift that we can go and get a second, and I guess that does it. It's at home, the crowd will be behind them. It's a good watch so far, this.
It has, yes, it's been an entertaining game. Just confirmation of the other two scores that Tom mentioned earlier. It's Leicester 1, Watford 0, but we're getting the word that there might be a penalty for Watford in that game. And City against West Ham is still goalless after Mahrez's goal earlier on was chalked off for us. Just a small matter of Chelsea against Manchester United to come on this service at 4:30 this afternoon.
Just trust your opinion. It's just for me, just shows you how tough the Premier League is. You looked a few weeks ago when Everton and Leicester at the start of the season just haven't got going, have they? Under two world-class coaches, it just proves how tough this league is, and it's going to be a topsy-turvy league, I think, this year. Brentford, if they can win today, it's such a good result, and Leicester are just not firing all cylinders.
No, they're not, and it's been a difficult one. I've seen a couple of Leicester's games in Europe this season as well. They got past a very poor Legia Warsaw side in midweek without any problems at all, but they struggled in the game previously to that at home to Spartak Moscow, where it might have been 2 rounds ago actually, where they just couldn't really get into the game at all, only led 1-0 and then ended up getting pegged back. There just seems to be a lack of confidence about Leicester right now, which when you consider the players they have, that someone like Vardy's not been firing on all cylinders, Maddison's, although he scored today, he's a little bit in and out of form as well. So it's a situation where I'm sure Brendan Rodgers will want to fix as soon as possible, because he was already very close to getting something superb out of Leicester, and they just seem to have taken a few steps back this season, as indeed have Everton, who are trying to get on the front foot now with Iwobi, and he spots Townsend down the right-hand side. There's an overlap there from Coleman, but Townsend cuts in on his left and puts a cross in, which frankly Fernandez could have actually let go out for a goal kick. But certainly frustration there from Townsend. Was that the right ball and his teammates were in the wrong place, or as he put a cross in too deep?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it is the right pass, it's just not a very good one, is it? But he's complaining at a lack of runners. It would make his pass look better if it did. His teammates did make that run as Fernandez plays a beautiful ball out, in fact, right through the heart of that Everton attack, as we are led to believe Watford scored that penalty. We'll wait a little bit longer and give you an update if it has been chalked off, because don't forget, Watford last week against Man United had several goes at it.
Yes, absolutely, yes, and there could be encroachment of all sorts. But as it stands, Josh King has put the ball into the net from that spot kick. We'll wait to see whether or not that has been confirmed as a goal. Everton now just enjoying a bit more possession in the Brentford half as Ducour goes out to Townsend, whips this one in. There was potentially a collision there between Good and Fernandez, but the keeper comes out, makes a good save and bowls it out quickly here. Here comes Canos down the right-hand side. He skips past Alan, but then plays a poor ball, looking for Mbuemo straight to Coleman, who'd actually pushed into a central midfield position. He then leaves the ball for Ducour. And Ducour has options here on the left with Dean. Back into Ducour. Brentford don't want to sit back too deep now. They're just allowing Everton to get a bit more of a foothold now. Yeah,
just a little bit the last minute or two, hasn't it? I've just spotted that actually. You timed that to perfection in that respect, because I just looked up and saw Norgard and thought, well, where's the press? And protecting the lead a little bit, but yeah, you don't want to get a team like Everton who do have some quality players. Yes, they're in a bit of a slump, but they need possession to get going. Brentford, that should be a free kick. Townsend pulled back. Pinnock, here they come.
Yeah, well, the referee's allowed play to go on. I wonder if it's going to be a booking for Townsend once players stop. Townsend then crashes into Mbuemo. And no free kick given. I thought that could have been a foul there from Townsend on Mbuemo, but it's Everton now back in possession. As Ducour just goes over the 22. Brentford still have the rugby union lines painted on an Irish ground sharing this stadium, which I think is even more impressive that the pitch is in such good condition, really. You can see a few little marks where potentially there have been some rucks and moves, but overall, groundsman doing a great job. And here come Everton now down the left-hand side with Iwobi. He plays it short to Digne. Digne gets to the byline, puts a cross in. It's dropping just at the edge of the 6-yard box, but Fernandez comes out and makes a save.
Yeah, again, just good for the keeper, getting his hands on the ball, good leap, doesn't have to panic, gets himself into that spot where you just think, right, there, done your job, move back in line and start again. And I haven't seen anything to understand that the keeper, the keeper hasn't made himself look like a second division Spanish keeper, has he? But he hasn't had massive to do. What he has had to do, he's dealt with. But that's Brentford's job today, to get the keeper into a bit of rhythm, I guess.
Absolutely, he needs to get into form, because for the next 7 or 8 games, right up until certainly until that FA Cup weekend in January, he is going to be Brentford's first keeper. There's no doubt about that. They do have a young Icelander in Gunnarsson who's gone out on loan. Potentially they could bring him back if there was an issue with Fernandez. But to say he's had a good game so far today. I would direct you to the highlights of the Burnley game, though, when Brentford lost 3-0. There could have been 5 down by half-time, and Fernandez unfortunately had a starring role in those situations. But here comes Henry now down the left-hand side. He runs straight into Seamus Coleman.
Always makes me laugh, that, by the way, that I'll never forget Leeds playing Blackpool years ago. Paul Bachubka, the ex-Man United keeper, subbed off at half-time for a 16-year-old. Got booed off and never played for Leeds again. Let the ball go through his legs, three goals in a row.
Oh, it's not good. It's not good. I mean, it's, as I say, that's never a good sign.
It was one of those where the players were just shooting from anywhere. Yeah. And John Joe Shelby scored.
If you remember Paolo Di Canio's lively time in football management in England, when he was manager of Swindon, he substituted Wes Fodringham after about 15 minutes, and Fodringham ended up having a real spat with Di Canio on the touchline, and that was certainly criticised for perhaps exposing his keeper a bit too much. But Brentford have a throw now down the left, launched into the box by Good. Pinnock heads it up, but he doesn't head it towards goal. Alan then able to volley it away, and he was caught by Oneyka there as well, which is a bit of a get-out-of-jail free card for Everton because it allows them to have a free kick and clear the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, Everton, looking at the way they're playing, their identity is so vivid through Calvert-Lewin. He's such a miss. At the end of the day, he's England's second best number 9, isn't he, in terms of his stature in the team, and he's just nowhere to be seen in terms of his current fitness. As we've got a really tough spell for the club, but that is what Benitez did, though. Benitez tried to sign. I remember being in the office when they were going through these deals for Rondon, the Townsends. People were laughing at them. They ended up being quite shrewd buys because their squad after them was pretty much non-existent. So it's padded it out.
It's Premier League experience, isn't it? At the end of the day, Townsend has plenty of Premier League games under his belt. Rondon and Benitez have got previous from Newcastle and from Benitez's spell in China as well, so he knows Salomon Rondon very, very well. And as I say, it's perhaps he's not quite as much of a flair player as someone like Richarlison, but then he's more of a solid sort of old-fashioned centre forward. It's quite difficult to dispossess him when he gets the ball, but as we've mentioned, he's hardly had anything to do today, hardly had any kind of service at all, as Canos just a little bit too keen there, crashing into Anthony Gordon. A free kick to Everton down the left-hand side. When you look at that injury list for the two teams, I mean, Brentford's injury list, I think one of the only teams in the league that's got a longer injury list right now is potentially Everton, who are missing Davies, Mina, Gomez. They're missing Gray. Gray's back on the bench today, but Richarlison's still out with that red card. Holgate suspended as well, and of course the big miss is Calvert-Lewin. Everton with that free kick after the foul on Anthony Gordon, but that's catching practice for Fernandez with that cross from Digne being far too close to him.
It is. A couple more goals elsewhere, by the way. Leicester 2, Watford 1, Jamie Vardy, and Man City have scored through Ilkay Gundogan as Sergio Canos has gone down here and stayed down his left ankle.
I wonder if this is after that collision he had with Gordon. I mean, it was Canos' foul that gave Everton the free kick, but it might just be that he's just feeling something there in his left ankle. Certainly, it would be a real shame if he was to go off as well. One of the standout players for Brentford. He's had a fair amount of time in England now, of course. He has a brief spell at Liverpool where it didn't work out. He went to Norwich, that didn't work out, and then came to Brentford, and has been very much a regular fixture in this team, a very popular player as well. As Alan just getting a quick talking to there from Rafa Benitez. He's now also talking to Andros Townsend. Never looks too animated, Rafa Benitez, and that's not a criticism. He's obviously been there and done that for so long that there's no scenario on the pitch that's going to surprise him. He's just always trying to work out the best way to go forward.
Yeah, and I guess he's probably years of experience. It's just not his style as well. Some people are the opposite way, aren't they? But with the opposite side of things, Sean Dyche can be quite sarcastic on the touchline with some of his stories. Thomas Frank seems like a bit of a mix of both. He can get a bit hot under the collar when he needs to, but he seems quite relaxed. I think Frank's just got total belief in his team. There's a bit of an not an arrogance, but just defiance in the system that works. They've got the best team out they can, and
I think with Thomas Frank as well, he comes at it from a slightly different angle because he's not really a former player. He's somebody who sort of learnt the art of coaching and got into football that way, which means that he comes at it from a slightly different angle than virtually every other Premier League manager who has got a playing career. Although, having said that, Brendan Rodgers and Eddie Howe both ended their careers very, very early because of injury, so it doesn't always translate that you've got to be a top player. But certainly Thomas Frank, I know that he does rub up opposition fans and managers sometimes with his style of play, with the way that he sometimes tries to get in the officials' ear as well. But we'll just break off from that because Brentford got a chance to break now down the left-hand side as Frank Oneyka is brought down by Townsend. Townsend's really gone after Oneyka today, and I'm not surprised. That's the third foul that Townsend's committed. He should have been in the book already.
Yeah, for the high boot, I'd have carded him, let's be honest. And then you look at this side of things, he's from behind, he clips his... He's got no complaints, has he? He literally gets up, rolls the sock down, he knows. In fact, he hasn't gone to foul him, he's just tried to run alongside him, but he's gone to get touched tight, and that, as a result, that's why he clips him. And it's just been a bit of a sticky first 40 minutes for Everton. I think they need the break to maybe regurgitate the tactics a little bit.
They do. They just need to try and rethink what they're doing as Brentford take this free kick short. Just clipped in by Janelt towards Toney, but Alan is on him straight away, and Ivan Toney can't get a shot away. He then lays it off to Canos, but that was already out of play. And certainly, although Brentford are leading, they could certainly do with the half-time as well, just to iron out a few things. So there have been a few moments where I think Brentford have let themselves down, particularly from set pieces.
I'd just say the last 10 minutes has been a bit hit and miss from everybody. I'm looking at the goal, 22 minutes. It seems like it's flown by. Obviously, it scored just before I handed over to you, and we had that 5-minute cameo, and it was like, right, here we go, we're going to get a couple of goals. And the 10 minutes since then, it's just been a bit of a nothing half from either side. And I think you've got to make a great point. I think they could both do with a bit of a drink and a rethink.
Absolutely, and the long ball now chased down by Iwobi, but Pontus Jansson will get there first. Alvaro Fernandez hits a clearance which is along the ground. It reaches the halfway line, but Decore is there first, and he finds Gordon, who breaks into the penalty area. Gordon stood up by 2 Brentford players, goes back towards Dean. Dean then finds Iwobi down the left-hand side. Back to Dean, he's got pressure here from Canos, puts a cross in, hooked away by Christian Norgard. Doesn't get too much distance on it, and then Gordon, lovely little move there just to get that ball away from Mbeumo. Plays it into Iwobi inside the penalty area. Good tries to stop him. Iwobi now back towards Gordon. Gordon looking for an opportunity to cross, can't do it, goes back to Michael Keane. He then plays a crossfield ball which picks out Coleman. Coleman tries to head that towards Rondon, but that's headed away by Pinnock. Janelt is then caught by Ben Godfrey, and that's going to be a free kick to Brentford at the edge of their own box.
I've got an issue with that free kick, I really have. I just don't know what he's supposed to do. Both players have gone for the ball. I'm not saying Godfrey hasn't caught him, but if that he's going with a high boot, but so has the Brentford player to kick it. He's coming from it's one of those things, to not foul him, they both have to come to a mutual agreement to let it stop.
Well, absolutely. There are those ones where sometimes you look at it and you think, well, the only way the player could avoid that is if he literally jumps out of the way, at which point he'll be crucified by his teammates, by his manager, and by his fans.
Yeah, they just annoy me. I understand why the ref's giving it. It's not an annoying. It's the rules rather than.
Yeah, I mean, but that's I think one of the reasons why football is such an engrossing sport, because there are so many situations on the pitch which aren't black and white.
Yeah.
It's so subjective. You probably find 10 referees who would find good reasons to give and not to give that free kick, and give you slightly different reasons why.
I must admit, I think the refereeing this year has been better because of the rules of trying to let play go. I think I've enjoyed it more anyway.
I think so, yeah. I mean, it is quite weird watching referees like Craig Paulson waving away big pushes and shoulder barges when he was normally one of the most pedantic referees for stuff like that. But it's refreshing, and the players, of course, very quickly picking up. They're still lying around waiting for free kicks, but realising they're not going to get them, they get up just that little bit quicker. As once again, Brentford looking like they could have just picked that ball off on the right-hand side. It's now played by Iwobi into the penalty area. That's a good challenge from Pinnock to stop Townsend. A second challenge at the edge of the area. Janelt couldn't quite get on the end of it. Everton still keep it alive here now with Alan. He plays it into Anthony Gordon. Lovely skills there from Gordon. Can't get away from Oneyka though. And now potentially a counter-attack for Brentford. Janelt finds Canos. He spots Toney, but it's a short ball. Toney has to stop his run. He then plays the ball back into the area. It might get through to Mbeumo, who hits it first time. It's a shot that's on target. I just think that maybe Mbeumo had even more time than he thought there, perhaps taking a touch and just making that shot even more difficult for Pickford to try and save.
Yeah, I mean, I like how he hit it first time in terms of the move. I thought that was just a great bit of play from everybody. Good, honest, old-school challenges from both players at the end for the Brentford box, flying in. Referee did well, didn't give any of them. None of them was, were fouls. And then it was just that move. Once Carlos' pass was poor, I thought the game was going to go. I thought Everton had cleared, but. Yeah, again, I think there's 2 times today Everton, realistically, if they had their time again, Janelt and Mbeumo would change their tactics. I think they'll regret. Janelt should have gone first time and didn't, and Mbeumo should have not gone first time and took a touch. But that's the modern game, that's the beauty of it. We get hindsight, we get replays, they don't.
Absolutely, it's all happening in the blink of an eye for the players on the field. So the ball now played back by Godfrey towards Jordan Pickford. And it's turning into a bit of a difficult half for Watford by all accounts, Tom. Yeah,
I mean, this is just how I think Watford's season's going to go. They're down 3-1 as Gordon goes down to ground. He's won a free kick. I think he's been Everton's best player to me, Paul.
He has, yeah. There's not been too much to speak of in terms of Everton attacking threat, but certainly Anthony Gordon is seeing a lot of the ball. And Frank Oneyka, who's been through the wars in this first half, picks up a yellow card. He he barely touches Gordon really, but it's enough to put the Everton youngster off his stride, and Oneyka picks up his second booking of the season.
Jamie Vardy, by the way, apparently, who's now got 2.
Yeah, so never discount Jamie Vardy, even if he has quiet spells. If he's on the pitch, there's always that chance that he can get a goal, whether it's a tap-in or something a little bit more elaborate, as Brentford have got... we'll see how many players they want to put into this ball, because there's certainly not going to be any shortage of shooting candidates here for Everton. Luca Digne, you would imagine, is going to be the first choice. It's just slightly over on the left, so it might not suit the left footer. Anthony Gordon is there as well as a right-footed option. But it is going to be Digne who tries to strike it towards goal, and it's over the bar. The angles are all against him. It would have to be one of the free kicks of his life for that to really threaten the goal.
I didn't want to butt in then because I knew they were about to score. Take it, and obviously you're about to talk. But I was going to say, hit that ball as hard as you can, low and hard at the keeper. The surface it looks pretty slick. Don't try and go for Hollywood into the top corner. Don't try and cross it. Just quite literally blast it into the floor and let it skip. If he spills it, there's 12 shirts in the box. It could hit anybody. And then they went for the fact that they, as you say, the only way to score past him would have to be inch perfect top corner. Sometimes use your environment a little bit. And I think Luca Dean sometimes, set pieces wise, he always just tries to be a perfectionist with it. Because we know he can do it, but sometimes just make it easy for yourself.
Absolutely, and the angles there were against him, and certainly the attempted shot he was playing was always going to be a high risk in terms of it not being on target. Long ball now for Salomon Rondon to chase, but Alvaro Fernandez will get there first. We're into the last minute of regulation play in this first half. Should be, I would imagine, 2 minutes, maybe even 3 of injury time, with the long injury to Oneyka, the penalty decision as well. But Brentford in possession now with Toney into the Everton half, plays it to Oneyka. He finds Canos, right-hand edge of the penalty area. 2 Everton players blocking him, goes back to Norgard, who lifts across into the 6-yard box. Pickford comes out, gets a good punch on it. It's a good punch because he gets it away from the box, and it's out for a Brentford throw on the left-hand side. Yeah,
again, he deals with it. Whether it's 100% necessary, I think Toney coming in, perhaps, at the last second, Pickford had made the right call. Toney was going to head it back across goal, so no Everton player got near him. But yeah, I mean, Toney, I know he scored the goal, but he's barely done anything else. It's, from a striker's point of view, he's done his job, but and Mbeumo's been the more involved.
Yeah, he has. He's certainly seen a lot more of the ball and tried to get into more of the moves as Good now winds up to take this throw. And we are going to get our 4th official, who is Mr. Brooks this afternoon, going to confirm. We're going to get 2 minutes of injury time at the end of this first half. Long throw there from Good. It ends up inside the penalty area. They're both scrambling for it. Ducour in the end gets there first. I think Janssen was a bit frustrated because he seemed to be blocking Ducour, hoping that Canos would get a shot away towards goal. It didn't prove to be the case as Fernandez gets away with one there. It's a poor clearance from him, went straight to Rondon, but there was a good block there from Pinnock to stop any quick shot. But Everton are on the attack now down the right-hand side in any case with Townsend. He gets to the edge of the area, right-footed cross. There's Ducour. That's stopped inside the 6-yard box by Good. Brentford living dangerously as Michael Keane winds up for a strike from a long, long way out. Does that get a deflection on the way? I think it does, and it's going to be a corner.
Yeah, I think Rondon is the man that should be going for this, and I think it's Rondon that blocks the header. He certainly seemed to be more in the way. He's going for it. He's having his shirt pulled. I tell you what,
VAR might want to have a look at that because that's risky there from Good. Can't be getting away with with that there. I mean, I think that, but once that header comes in, it is Rondon that gets in the way. We've got this Everton corner now whipped in, headed on by Gordon along the 6-yard box before it's volleyed clear by Sergi Canos out for a throw to Everton down the left-hand side.
This is what confuses me with VAR and stuff. I don't understand how they can not look at that and think he isn't taking him off the ball. If he doesn't touch him, he's headering that ball. I'm sorry, that is a fact.
It is. No, it's still inconsistent. It is, I suppose, for those who are saying that VAR has taken away a bit of the excitement of football, it's nice that VAR can also be inconsistent sometimes because, as you say, there's shirt pulling there. There's no attempt to play the ball. He's not even looking at where the ball is. He just wants to stop the man. And he's taking a big risk there. But Brentford win the ball back now inside their own half. And here is Mbeumo, runs straight into Iwobi, though, fighting with Alan now to try and get the ball back. Might all be for nothing because we've pretty much had the full 2 minutes now. Unless Keane plays a long ball towards the edge of the area, he's not going to have time to. Referee Darren England calls time on the first half at the Brentford Community Stadium, where the Bees lead by a goal to nil after a penalty from Toney. And myself and Tom will be back for you in 15 minutes.